All right, I'm gonna start the recording.
We've used to show here. I'm fine, I promise.
Remind us was all.
No,
I can't.
Once the gym comes in, you may not. He's not a little late, so.
Water.
Just for sure.
You did hear it say that.
So, is it?
Oh,
That's okay. We're waiting a couple extra minutes for Jim anyway, since we're doing the URA meeting first. And I guess I could start it, but I'll wait about that for 2 or 3 or 4.
Trying to find a new church to try to make message been plenty lately.
Salud, that's it. No worries, we're waiting for you, so we can start the meeting.
Yes, a good chance that's it's, well, now it's only that's.
2. You just changed.
A little faster. That's
1 minute 50 seconds, that is the agreement. I don't know, it was here.
Is that something that I need to sign?
No, this is not,
Oh, okay.
it's the renewal, so I need to sign.
Yep. We're waiting for you to start the URA.
Oh, we're doing the URA meeting first?
Yeah,
Oh, I apologize.
no, that's our.
I need to get on here. I thought we were doing the city council meeting first.
No, people hear me.
And let me see if there should chat about something that we should do. Just since I'm back now, just thinking about it.
And I'm guessing your schedule is. Gives you the.
If we here. No, I mean, I couldn't do it earlier in the day. I just. Yeah. I've been.
Yeah, hopefully figure that out.
Okay, so we're doing the urban renewal agency first.
Mhm.
All right, let's call the meeting to order at the time, 6:35 P.M. Standing pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, yes, okay, so, yes, all right, so, we'll call let the record show that we do have a quorum with, members. Mackin, Hildebrandt, and Pedersen, and myself, the chair, and the vice chair, Mayor Frank. I was not informed of absences of member Tyke Crow or Wild Hopper, so I did not know if they're,
Type Pro was going to try and zoom in.
and have you heard from Wild Hopper? Shocker, okay. Do you have friends of interested citizens?
Yeah.
No. All right. Approval of minutes from the June 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there any discussions, corrections, questions, concerns?
Nope.
Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I have a correction, for the minutes, I believe you were excused and Counselor, Board Member Wilder was not. Does not specify either for both. So just something to note.
Yes, I don't know if we actually talked about doing that for the
URA.
agency versus the council, but for the record, let it be shown that my absence was excused and Councilor Wildharber's was not. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
All right, so I have a motion from Mayor Frank,
A second.
second from member Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? All right, passed unanimously. Next action item, approval of resolution 2501, adopting the budget for FY 2025. That should be 2026, but that's just on the agenda, not 2020. And then it's six. Oops.
No, I was asking where it was, now it's, yeah.
2020, yeah. Jeremy, I think you're technically the executive director of the agency. So would you want to talk about the resolution or should we just go right into it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution reflects the budget is approved by the Urban Rural Agencies Budget Committee with no changes.
Okay. Questions, concerns, comments from board members? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-01?
Second.
So I have a motion from member Hildebrandt. I have a second from the mayor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, passed unanimously. That is all we have on the agenda for today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We stand adjourned at 18:39.
Excellent.
I know. For once, we're actually ahead when the next one says we push it.
All right, that's why everybody's good to go. We're gonna go ahead and start the Dayton City Council meeting at 6:41.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Because it's noticed at 6:45, I think we technically have to till 6:45.
I'll second that. We've done that
3
before.
minutes.
Well, it's 6:39, right?
I got you.
So we have 6 minutes. I apologize. Next time I'll slow my roll and use up the whole 15 minutes. Mayor, if I can borrow your pen, I'll have to sign this for it.
There's 5 minutes out.
Yeah.
Instead of saying the pledge twice, we could sing Oregon, my Oregon.
Yeah, I wish I knew that song,
Yeah.
and I should be the one leading it.
True.
Yeah.
I've lived here for 22 years.
You don't want to hear me sing.
Note to self.
Definitely don't wanna hear me sing.
Oh, it could be fun with all of these non-singers, cause. You don't want to hear me sing either.
Not even drunk people enjoy it.
Sounds like it's just me and you, Robin.
I
wrote
wrote
myself
myself
a
a note. I will learn it before next week. Are you a singer?
I sang in men's chorale in undergrad. Voice was not my instrument, but I did take some voice classes.
From the sounds of it, you are ahead of the rest of us.
You play piano, right?
Yeah.
I can do some,
Skill, right?
Good try the guitar, I think it's your typical. Very hard to reach around and make enough sense.
What do you guys do this?
It's a fun instrument you teach.
I said Dave can play on the piano and sing, he can play on the piano.
Play it in.
He sings all day long.
We had it
It's
work.
always leaving some-
I know, every time I come in his office, then they're singing about something.
I was imagining you reclining on the chair.
I don't
That's
know,
what
no,
I'm saying.
I can't read.
That's what I'm saying. I told you, I'll throw some money out there for you. You did try.
Just make sure it's in the tissue. Folks. Please.
That'd be on
try.
Oh, yeah, the wrestling costume. Yeah.
That's bad. I could munch on a board. Swing out.
Oh, actually, about it. Oh, yeah.
We heard anything from Chris or anybody else?
No, I haven't seen them pop in.
So I would assume council is first, I would leave the time and do general. She's very chatty. I don't know. I actually started playing Frozen Time. My goodness.
You know, that's actually a song about pregnancy.
No, I
That's what it was
didn't
about?
notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I read a great article about it. The woman went down for alcohol because she's pregnant.
Well, that makes sense.
And
Yes. All right. Well, let's start this meeting at 6:45. And we have a quorum with Counselor Mackin, Counselor Hildebrandt, Counselor Peterson, and Counselor McGuire. We do have Counselor Hypro and Counselor Wildflower absent. No idea where they are. Okay, do we have anybody signed up?
Um, Just for the public hearings. I'll write you that,
Just for the public hearing.
yeah.
So we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have minutes from May 5th, 2025 and June 2nd, 2025 regular session. Entertained motion,
Madam Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor McGuire and a second from Councilor Hildebrandt. All those in favor?
All right,
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, here we go with our public hearing. I get to read this lovely little thing. The city council will hold a public hearing to obtain citizen input on the budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025, as approved by the City of Dayton Budget Committee. The city council will hold public hearing to obtain citizen input on the proposed uses of state revenue sharing funds in the city of Dayton fiscal year 25-26 budget. State alcohol taxes, 50,000, state cigarette taxes, 1,700, state marijuana taxes, 5,000, and state revenue sharing, 27,106. And we will officially open this public hearing at 6:47. And I do have Ukiah Bunn. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, I'm Ukiah Bunn. I am the president of the Dayton Community Development Association, more commonly known as DCDA. I thank you for letting me speak tonight. As you know, DCDA has partnered with the city over the last 11 years. DCDA is a nonprofit, fully volunteered committee. And I understand that lately there's been discussion as far as reducing some of the financial support from the city, about $2,500. And I just wanted to briefly give you some info as you continue to discuss that. Like I said, over the last 11 years, we've partnered with the city. We are excited to do so. We've got some great things that we are planning to work with the city on. Outside of your support, DCPA, well, let me back up. Your support of the 2,500 allows us to operate. It pays our things like our insurance, our dues for the Oregon Main Street program. The Oregon Main Street program is our platform that allows us to go ahead and do things like reach out for grants and other in-kind funds. We've been able to, over the last 11 years, be able to move just shy of $480,000 towards accomplishments on a list that go directly to our community here in Dayton. Also, some of the just one event that we have in particular, for every dollar that we spend, we generate back into the Dayton community $9.78. So that is a additional $625,892 that we're able to take our funds and to generate back into Dayton. So as you consider the budget, I would love to talk more with you and encourage you to consider that $2,500. It makes a big impact for us, and it allows us to make a bigger impact for the city of Dayton. So I appreciate your time. Any questions?
Your address for the record.
What's that?
Your address for the record.
Yeah, my address is 2650 Southeast Locks Road here in Dayton, Oregon.
No questions? Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else signed up. My phone says it's 6:50. So we will close the public hearing at 6:50. And move on to our action items, page 13 of our agenda, our packets. Approval of resolution 24/25-17, correcting resolution number 23 24-21. Adopting the budget for fiscal year 24-25 due to a clerical error in the budget tables. Yes, sir.
I move to approve resolution number 24/25-17, a resolution correcting resolution number 23/24-21, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2024/2025 due to a clerical error in budget tables.
Second. A motion from Councilor Brandt, a second from Councilor Peterson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we're on to page 23, approval of resolution 24/25-18, authorizing year-end transfer of funds in the fiscal year 24, or excuse me, 25-26 budget. Any discussions or anything, or I entertain a motion? Yes, sir.
I move that we approve resolution number 24/25-18, a resolution authorizing the year-end transfer of funds in the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilor McGuire and a second from Councilor Hildebrand. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Aye. And any opposed? Motion passes. All right, page 43 of our packets. This is approval of resolution 24/25-20, declaring the city of Dayton's election to receive state revenues for fiscal year 25-26.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So back on page 25, we do have like an updated memo from the city manager. Should we?
Well, I hope everybody read it, but we can go ahead. Did you want to go over that memo? Jeremy?
Yes, ma'am, there were some important changes that I need to bring to the council's attention.
$100,000 in check.
So in my memo, I detail these changes. I also provide a list of all the accounts that changed since the budget committee approved budget. Most of these changes have to do with updates to the end of year projections. I mentioned in my budget message and at the budget committee meeting that prior to fiscal year end, staff and I would be updating those year end projections. The projections that went into the budget committee adopted budget were through March. I factored in, February. I factored in budget activity through the end of May and into part of June. There were significant changes to the general fund. Most of those changes have to do with increased expenditures in building activity and planning activity. For the planning services, the original estimate in particular was 52,000 by fiscal year. That is now increased to 80,000. These are partially offset by revenues that are related to my direction staff to compile billings, send out the land use applicants. But we're not going to collect all of those revenues by fiscal year end. And it's not going to capture all of the costs that we incurred. This should be an indication to us that going into the new fiscal year, we should review our fee schedules to ensure that the building program is completely self-sustained and that developers and development are covering their costs for us to process the land use applications. Right now, that is not the case. And the general fund, it is not sustainable for the general fund to continue subsidizing those costs. There were other changes, for instance, in the sewer reserve fund based on actual expenditures for the pump station. There were also updates to certain staff accounts based on the recent departure of a staff member. And there are also updates to the revenue side. Some revenues accounts increased, others decreased, as you can see on the budget detail. What this means for the general fund is that the projected year-end budget or fund balance for the general fund is lower than what was initially projected. If that turns out to be the case, then we will need to monitor the general fund budget going into the next fiscal year. Potentially make changes mid-year to ensure that we meet the target that we discussed at the budget committee meeting. Right now, we have a vacancy in a critical staff position that is necessary for us to compile accounting information to know exactly where we stand. My recommendation to the council is to move forward with approving the budget with the understanding that staff are working diligently to bring stability to the finance department so that we can present you with accurate timely accounting information as we go into the new fiscal year and monitor our budget and make any adjustments that may be needed. But the numbers that you see here in this memo and are reflected in the budget resolution are my best estimates based on the information available to me at this point.
Yes.
Question, you mentioned increased costs for the lift station, so I thought we were under a contract with that. Do you know? I'm assuming, if memory serves, the contractor, we came in, there was a contract to do it, there was a budget for, overages and stuff, so I guess I'm curious if there's more information on what more that we're spending that we didn't expect to be spending based on a contract that we signed to install.
I may have misspoken. There have not been increased costs. There have been updated costs that are actually less than what was in the original estimate. And that reflects the work isn't as far along as what was anticipated. So on page 5, if you look in the sewer reserve fund, account 700-700-920-000, we'll see the original versus updated estimate. This is $500,000 less.
So basically the 95,000 that we're gonna be is less, is mostly, it sounds like planning and engineering services. That were over.
Correct.
What was budgeted.
Correct.
Okay, cool, all right, I wanted to make, that's what I thought was going into it, but then when you said that, it kind of threw me pretty well, but okay, thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
So Jeremy, just to make sure that's only with regard to the general fund, right? So like the Parks Reserve, that one is looking at what, $34,000 increase versus what was projected. Sewer is looking at, factoring out the transfer. The maintenance piece alone is 16.5. So everything is up. Those are just the big ones. Is the ones that you're referring, is just the general fund one is the main topic of discussion, but there are other aspects that are significantly up as well.
That is correct.
Okay.
I have a couple of,
Yes.
for starters, the bandstand rehab was listed in the budget at 40,000. Spent 39,788. But what I thought was in the budget was 30,000, was the 10 added for the ramp that we don't have yet. We had third, oh, what am I missing?
There was nothing allocated for a ramp.
Okay, but we. Last year's budget had $30,000 for capital improvements. For the park.
Okay,
This year we're starting with. The budget was 40,000. And 39 of it has been spent. Where did that extra 10 come from?
was always 40,000 in the budget, never changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ma'am, can you restate the question? I'm not sure I understand.
last year's budget package that I have at home,
Uh,
said there was $30,000 in capital improvements for the park.
Okay.
That's changed to 40.
No, that's separate, it's a different line item from the bandstand improvement, which was in Parks Capital Fund.
Okay. Okay. So we. Oh, do we have the grant in this year's budget? Assuming that we get it?
it is not. If we get that grant, we will place a resolution before the council for you to accept and appropriate those monies.
Okay. All right then. There's also in the transient lodging tax. Facilities. We have $7,977, and there was nothing in the budget. Of facilities?
I don't spend it unless it's in the budget.
Well, the original estimate was zero.
Yeah.
It is.
For what, 94, 95?
No, so it's 105-105-810-00.
This is for next year?
No, this was 24-25 original estimate, shows zero, and then.
Well, there were actually two facilities, as you can see. You see that? Tourism facilities and tourism facilities and promotion. Basically a duplicate of each.
So those should be combined.
They can be combined, yeah.
Okay,
We'd like to create a new account though that says strategic marketing. Instead of, because, you know, this being the first year or two of all of this, Rochelle had kind of attached names that she thought might be appropriate. But now that we look back on it, we need to update those, and that was discussed last month with the finance guy.
may I add to that?
Please do, yeah.
So kind of in that similar vein, because we see there's a good amount of zeros, original estimate, and then value and updated estimate. A good example is, the sewer is the 400-400-614-600, the sewer lines repair and maintenance was budgeted zero. We ended up having 16,549. So that's not paying beyond the zero that was budgeted. That's this becoming a new line item. And then funds from a different line item being reallocated into this line item because it made more sense. Am I correct? That's right?
So, let me clarify. Original estimate does not mean zero budget.
Okay,
There was budget in that account, but
perfect.
there was. Something that occurred during the fiscal year that we weren't anticipating. That was for the leak that was repaired on, what was that street on?
Sewer line?
So, didn't you have a big?
There was some sort of
That's
over
sewer.
by my neighborhood.
So was it the one you had to dig out? No,
On the water side, yeah,
but not sewer.
not sewer.
So we had do you recall that was done?
And to be fair to you guys, this is normally something we probably ask the finance director position. If it was here, I assume. So, this is gonna be probably something that we can, hash out at a later date and have more answers to.
Sure, I can, it'd be very easy for me to look into that.
Easy, yeah, no worries.
Okay, one last thing. If I may. It looks to me like our city county dinner was not in the budget, but we spent the money anyway.
Equipment.
The way I again, we have 0 to, what was it? $5,549. Technically, the way I understand it, if it's not in the budget, you're not supposed to spend it. So that'd just be something to watch for next year. We always did budget city county dinners like every 2 years.
Would that be under the city council expense line item? Under state revenue sharing?
Well, maybe Mr. Jeremy needs to, we can ask Mr. Jeremy that, because in this worksheet, it's 0 to, yeah.
Yeah, and under state revenue sharing, it was budgeted as 11,000 and we only spent 7,800. I know we don't drink that much water and have that much snacks, so I'm assuming something like the city council or the city county dinner might be in there. I just don't know what's in the city council expense.
The holiday.
The holiday dinner, was the city county dinner part of that as well?
The city county dinner would be under the city county dinner.
It has a separate line item, doesn't it?
Oh, there it is, okay, I
It
see it,
does.
under state revenue sharing, okay. But again, I think the city manager said that that original estimate, that's the estimate, that's not what was in the budget. That's what was estimated, this isn't a budget to budget. That's not what this is,
Okay, that's what.
just to help, yeah, it can be a little confusing, yeah.
Okay.
But this is what, I'm assuming based on the city manager's information that he got from Rochelle and the interim city manager, that this is where those monies were gonna go, but it's not necessarily gonna line up one for one for a budgeted line.
That's how I keep.
I would like to know what city council expenses though, because that's a lot of money and we don't cost that much.
That's also training, LOC,
Uh,
going to the dinners, for the city county dinners and.
Okay, so that's going to other city county dinners, not necessarily the city
Not the
county
one
dinner that
we
we
host.
Right. Yeah.
heard, okay.
Can we still do those? Is it legal or is it now part of that ethics thingy?
We can still do that, but that's
The city-
something else.
Yeah. Well, the city is buying us dinner. When we go to those.
But
city county
I'm part of a training. Sort of, so I would think that would be,
We should probably figure that out.
well, we don't have any money for it anyway, so.
Touche. Good point.
And I don't eat $50 worth of food, so.
I certainly can.
I have a question, just referencing again that city county dinner and the cost associated with such. Where is the offsetting revenue item from the amount we've charged each of the cities and counties that participated in?
Good point.
I don't know where that specifically goes to. It was budgeted 4,000. So to that, I mean, the amount that was paid by other city county entities should have gone towards that. But I don't,
We're gonna probably have to wait to hear from them.
I have the receipts, so.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This is just, forecasting out a little bit, Jeremy, how soon do you think that staff can get us an updated fee schedule that we feel will pay for all of the planning? I know I saw in there that you were talking about, going out for RFPs for engineering as well, just for due diligence, which we should do. But for those planning services, is that something that you would prefer to wait to have the new finance director on board for, or do you think that you can do that under your purview as the city manager to put a new fee schedule together and bring it before council, and if so, how soon can that happen?
Just for planning services or for the entire suite of building and planning activities?
The ones where, I guess there's two questions. Do we need to triage this immediately and stop the bleeding? And if we do, how soon, what do we need to target, and how soon can you get to us, or do we have time to do a systemic update and do it all together?
I'd like to really think about that and get back to you with the game plan.
Heard, okay, cool. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
Like, if we need to stop the bleeding, that's one thing, but if we can wait and just do the systemic, I think that would be, okay.
So for certain things like the building updates that will require coordination with Newburgh and also some noticing through building codes division. We have to obtain there. We just have to go through a process with them, so that adds 30 days or so.
Okay.
But I can come back to you at your July meeting with some little thoughts on that.
Okay, any more other questions, comments, concern? Okey dokey, approval of resolution 24/25-20. Declaring the city of Dayton.
We have to
We have
approve
to
that.
approve it.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I move to approve resolution number 24/25-19, a resolution adopting the city of Dayton budget for the fiscal year 2025/2026, making appropriations and categorizing and levying ad valorem taxes.
I'll second.
Okay, I have motion from Councilor McGuire and a second from Councilor Mackin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we're on to that one, and I'm not reading it again.
I have a correction to make here. On page 37.
37.
Wait, page 37. Where did it go?
I'm sorry, ma'am, this resolution is on page 43 of the packet, so I'm just trying to figure out where. You're at.
Oh, then we missed something on page 37. The resolution itself calls for a fiscal year ending June 30th of 2025. Starting on July 1st, be it further resolved, number 1. Fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2025.
26.
Good catch.
We just got through that one.
Good job.
Could I get somebody to read it again as amended?
Ma'am.
Yes.
I move that approval of resolution resolution number 24/25-19. A resolution adopting the city of Dayton budget for the fiscal year 2025/2026. Making appropriations and categorizing and levying ad valorem taxes as amended.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilor McGuire as amended and a second from Councilor Mackin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're on to page 45. And I'll let you talk to us about this if you want, Jeremy.
This is a standard resolution that cities must pass every year if we wish to be eligible for receiving our share of revenues from the Department of Administrative Services in the state of Oregon. It specifies that we are a city, we do provide services for citizens. And that we elect to receive those revenues.
There's a correction.
Okay, let's go.
25 process.
43. Did we not just do that one?
Yeah, this is 24/25 dash.
Okay, well, who wants to do that?
Well, should we ask that, Rocio, should that resolution probably be number 24/25-20? I mean 25/26-20 rather than 24/25-20,
Page 43.
page 43.
At the top,
Yeah.
Very top.
24,
Should it be 25/26 rather than 24/25 or
that starts July 1st.
heard? Okay. So it's correct.
Excellent then.
Did somebody notice this first
Yeah.
clause here,
Yeah.
25/26?
Yeah, that's the one that I was mentioning. Wait, which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, under the now therefore, the city of Dayton resolves as follows. That one should be 25/26, right?
Yes,
Okay, cool. So the resolution's fine, but the date within the clause should be 25-26. Cool.
All right.
I have a clarification question. It says this is available to counties of 100,000 or more. Does Yamhill County have 100,000? I thought it was slightly under that. I haven't been keeping up with county,
I don't know, but count is right now.
because we've been getting this for a while.
Are we getting money?
I shouldn't
we're not
argue,
adjusting
I
it.
shouldn't argue it, just curious.
Okay, so. Need somebody to.
110,886.
Oh,
Perfect.
So we.
it has grown, oh my goodness.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 24/25-20, a resolution declaring the city of Dayton's election to receive state revenues for fiscal year 25/26 as amended.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilor McGuire, a second from Councilor Hilbrand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion passes. All right, we are on to page 45, approval of resolution 24/25-21, approving an intergovernmental agreement between Yamhill County and the city of Dayton for police services for fiscal year 25-26. Yes.
I move to approve the agreement for police services as presented with Yamhill County in the amount of $214,010.09. And to authorize the city manager to sign.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Hilbrand and a second from Councilor McGuire. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, page 55 of your packets. Approval of resolution 24/25-22, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Is that correct? Yes, I guess it is. Page 55.
In there.
Yes, sir.
I move to approve resolution 24/25-22, a resolution approving a contract for land use planning services with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, July 1, 2025 through July 30, 2026.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Hildebrand, a second from Councilor McGuire. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We are on page 87, approval of resolution 24/25-23, authorizing the city manager to enter into a loan agreement with Twin Towers to complete the Highway 221 stormwater drain line replacement. Did you wanna speak on this, Jeremy?
yes, thank you. The staff report, I've detailed the background on how this is and how and why this is before you tonight. I'll call your attention on page 88 to condition of approval number 15 from the land use file for this project. This is for the hotel project that was recently completed. So the condition of approval talks about storm drainage plan. Talks about camera, the line, but it does not talk about responsibility in case that line is damaged. So I had conversations with the city engineer and our city legal counsel on this topic. And there's no explicit requirement that they repair or replace existing infrastructure. There's about 100 feet of storm line there and it's collapsed over the years. So I've had conversations with the developer on if there's an interest in cost sharing. The developer is adamant that it's a city responsibility. It's been in the public right of way for many years. And the failure of that line predates, in their opinion, this project, and as such, it should remain city's responsibility. And they are adamant in not participating in any cost sharing. They did say that their final and best offer to the city is to provide financing at 0% interest, provided we pay it off within a 3-year time frame for us to complete the project. I did verify that the $75,100 quote is still good from the lowest responsive bidder that we obtained back in February. And this is a condition of approval under certificate of occupancy. Right now, they're operating on a temporary CO. The city could withhold that and try to obtain further leverage. I'm presenting to you the best offer that I was able to obtain.
Mayor,
Yes.
have we run this by the city attorney
Yes.
and they agree? Or they're agreeing to not see their side of it, or I mean. So putting my planning commissioner hat, I mean, doing it for over a decade, any required storm improvements. It's pretty black and white that that was a condition of approval, they should have done. I'm just curious as to why. What their reasoning is that they don't think they have to. Any required storm improvements must be completed, tested, and accepted prior to occupancy. It's pretty clear that they have to fix anything that's broken, so I'm just kind of. Unclear as to where they think they have an out here.
So the wrinkle there is it says it must be completed, but it does not specifically assign responsibility. Now, I'm happy to go back and obtain a legal opinion, see. To evaluate this in more detail if the council wishes.
Did you remember you said this could be covered with? Contingencies, correct?
It would be covered by the new stormwater fee, at least to start. So the stormwater fee would pay this off over 3 years, and that fee would remain if there any stormwater. But if the council wants to take this in a different direction, I'm looking to you for that direction.
My recommendation would be to not fight. In the long term, $75,000 is not a very big nut to swallow. They are investing millions of dollars and they want to invest millions more in the new hotel. I think. In order to keep things on. A favorable and happy basis, I think in the long term, $75,000 is not that much of a. Of a nut to swallow, especially since they're gonna give us the 0% financing over 3 years. That would be my take on it.
I agree too.
To my fellow councilors.
I agree as well, and because the fee that we're gonna charge. Stormwater fee is going to cover it. Feel okay about that. We're adding a bill for long list of things. That's that.
Can we do something to strengthen our written policies to make sure this doesn't happen again? And can we ask for this to go to the planning commission like as soon as possible?
Yeah, how fast do we have to take class 15?
So
Let's not let this happen again.
So what? The way that this could have been phrased, the planning commission could have. Specified in their conditions of approval that if there are any damages, the developer shall be responsible. That's all that needed to be phrased.
But it's not code.
Yeah, to Katie's point, can we update that for the next time as a recommended, you know? This is the proper wording of something like this?
Sure.
Moving forward. I would recommend that we do whatever is necessary as a council to ensure that the planning commission. Decisions have to be approved by city council. So that's how it was in Hillsborough, that's how it's been in every city where I've been on a planning commission. The planning commission does the decision, but then that has to go to council now. 99 times out of 100 in Hillsborough, we approved it on the consent agenda. Basically, all the counselors looked at everything. Made sure they agreed with all the questions, concerns, everything that planning commission did. And then we go ahead and check it off, but we don't do that here. And I think we should. I'm not saying that I would have caught that if that had been the case, but we don't even see that. They're basically operating independently of us, and that's in my personal opinion, that's not the way it should be happening. They're an agency for city council to take some of that technical stuff off our plate. But in the end, we should be the ones approving it. And I don't know what has to happen to change that with our code or,
What does it say in our charter about that? Does it?
and this is gonna be something we take offline. We don't have to decide it here.
No, but
But
I'm
it's a good
curious
idea.
to know what it says about it.
But that, they should be making a decision and it should be a recommendation to city council to approve X, Y, Z. They're not the final approval.
So do you find it slowed anything down?
No, it was just, it would just come before council, because if somebody doesn't agree with planning commission, we're the appeal.
Yeah.
But, and because we're supposed to be the one approving, at least that's how I thought it was supposed to work. I just don't know. I was on the planning commission here for a couple of years and it was kind of, we were very slow. I think we met 3 times a year each year. So. It doesn't have to be decided now. I know we've got a lot more on our agenda, but, and I know there's a lot of other stuff on your plate, but I think it's something we should look at moving forward. That. The planning commission makes recommendations to the city council. The buck stops here. It doesn't stop it.
It's a good idea.
So,
For the ones that they review, of course, state laws change that, like for some subdivisions. It goes to you, we don't even get to see it yet, but where it's possible, I think we should be looking at stuff like that.
if I may, Mayor,
Yes.
for this very specific issue, no code changes are necessary. It's just a staff awareness and awareness among the planning commission that areas of responsibility need to be specifically delineated and the language needs to be clear and it needs to be phrased in an active voice. Had we done that, there wouldn't be this ambiguity we're dealing with right now.
But also the planning commission and who's the secretary for that? Who's the staff? Is that URA? Yeah, but I think if we are the ones who, where it is, does have to be. Up where it's approved. That has to be factored into 120-day clock. So that is an important consideration. That if the planning commission makes a decision. That whatever the time difference between that decision and the next council meeting, that has to fit the 120-day clock.
And I believe that would be a code change,
Pardon?
a code change, I believe.
Yeah, I
To-
found something
to
in our
accomplish
code that
that.
says something about.
It's something we can take offline. It doesn't have to be solved here, but I do think that is something we
Well,
should do, because that's how every other city that I know of operates.
Let's put it on the agenda for another discussion later. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move approval of resolution 24/25-23. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a loan agreement with Twin Towers to complete the Highway 221 storm drain line replacement.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilor McGuire and a second from Councilor Hildebrand. All those in favor?
All right,
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, we are on page 101. Approval of the CIS quote for property liability insurance for fiscal year 25-26.
Oh, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the June 10th, 2025 quote for property and liability insurance coverage through CIS in the amount of $89,570.13 and to authorize the city manager to sign.
A second. Yeah, I have a motion from Councilor Mack and a second from Councilor Peterson. All those in favor?
Alright,
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, page 109 from Business Oregon grant application.
I found some, items to question.
Yes.
Page 119, section 2C. Let me get there. 119, 2C.
Project readiness and timing.
So is the product identified in a planning document? No. If no, is a technical assistance planning project being considered? That wasn't answered. And then again on page 120. It says, is this an urgent supply concern? And we said no. I kind of thought this was urgent. So page 119, we answered no, and it's asking for more information. It's not there.
Did we put this out or did Business Oregon fill this out? Because it says Business Oregon use only.
Yeah, I think this is a sample of something.
respectfully, let's let the city manager talk to us about
Jeremy? You wanna enlighten us on this Business Oregon grant application?
Of course.
Beth and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with Regional Solutions with Business Oregon about possible funding opportunities for Fisher Farms. They directed us towards their technical assistance funding program. Under this program, they can finance the water quality testing, the scope of which is in your packet. This would be for Fisher Farms. Business Oregon did not see any specific grant program in which they could direct this. One possibility would be community development block grant funding. That was a strong possibility they gave us, but there are very detailed and time-consuming federal requirements that would pose a risk to us in terms of being able to do this in time. So under technical assistance, they could finance this over a 10-year period for say 1% interest loan. This is just to get the ball rolling on that. They'll take it to their team and see if they want to take it to the next step, in which case they'll invite us to submit a formal application.
So this application that we see in here, is this the actual application?
No, that's just the intake form.
Okay, that's what Kitty was asking about, was on the intake form. Some of the questions were answered.
So on the intake form, 2C, technical assistance.
It says,
I think the
no,
answer-
is a technical assistance planning project being considered? That wasn't answered.
I believe that's gonna be a yes, because this is a technical assistance
So
program.
this hasn't been turned in yet.
Correct.
That's good to know.
Now we can get it a little
Yes,
bit
sir.
better. And I'm curious about the 120.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead and finish this up.
Oh,
We
sorry.
can get over that. Go ahead. What was your other thing?
Does the project address any of the following needs? An urgent community drinking water supply concern was answered no.
So this is for the Business Oregon internal use. I believe those buttons default to no. So this is for their internal use. I haven't touched this part of the application.
Okay,
Counselor McGuire.
I think, if there's no objection, I think this is where we start the discussion about, do we want to do this? You know, I've been reading over everything that Jeremy has sent us. This is a lot of money. We're talking about $200,000 just to see if maybe we might want to do this. And we don't have a lot of money right now, and I think everything that we've received for a vast majority of the data that we've received so far. Is saying that the Fisher Farms. Is no longer a long-term solution
Right.
for our water supply. 10 years ago, when the farms was purchased. Obviously, I think there was different data points. That the city council at the time had, which is why they obviously spent $3 million. But. Based on everything that I've seen so far, and if this is something that we need to talk about in an executive session, let me know. I think we need to have the discussion as to whether things have changed. And that our tying into Mac Water and Light. Will preclude the need for Fisher Farms. And. Because that is gonna be a better long-term solution. For us, and it's gonna be a very expensive solution for us, not only in infrastructure. But if I'm looking at it correct, we're gonna get charged 1.5 times what people in Mac are getting charged. We could potentially sell that property now for, $1 million, possibly more. If that would be good revenue for the city. So. Based on everything that I've seen so far. With our discussions and, with Lafayette and with Mac, Water and Light and everything. I don't see a necessarily need for us to go forward with this. I think it would not be $200,000 less.
Yes.
I agree, those were my exact thoughts as I was going through the data, it's not a long-term solution. It's a wonderfully valuable piece of property that we could, I think use in probably a better way than worrying about the water rights. Using it, I just think there are some other uses for a Fisher Farm.
And things change over 10 years.
My concern. We don't always get along with Lafayette. 2, they're already putting up issues. 3, we are gonna get charged through the nose, and we just raised water, sewer, and everything on our constituents in this community. I don't know that I think it's a good idea. This juncture, I'm not saying at any time, but at this point in time, it may not be in the best interest of the community to jump on that bandwagon quite yet.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So one thing with this tie-in, this is a temporary solution. This is not a permanent tie-in. Right, so this is a temporary solution utilizing Lafayette's tie-in. And the Mac Water and Light long-term solution is a very good idea, but that's not what this is. So this is a very temporary stopgap solution that is only used for a very specific amount of time. Whereas the Fisher Farms is 10, I mean, everybody defines long-term differently, right? That's one of the things that I was saying, but 10, 15 years is leverage, right? In discussing a regional water source, in all of these different, conversations that are happening, they're all very good ideas. I think we all recognize that this is not a forever solution, but it gives us options, it gives us bargaining power, and it's a more long-term solution than the Lafayette tie-in. That's one thing that's important to remember in this. This tie-in is not a Mac Water and Light permanent setup. This is a very temporary solution to a very immediate problem.
And Lafayette wants us to pay for all the maintenance.
Well, for the line that we're using, yeah.
No. No. More.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's more they want us to pay for. Than just that. So, yeah. But we should probably not get into that right now. We can always regroup after we have some more discussions and executive session.
I believe we need to do some comparisons or seriously compare the two of them. I've been concerned about spending a lot of money on a short-term fix when it's not gonna be permanent. That's always been a concern. So I would vote for, let's do some serious discussion on the two options.
Okay, well, we will table that for now and come back to that in a bit. Fine. We are going to move on to page 123, approval of the new finance director.
Point of order,
Did I miss something?
well, this is an authorization. Are we saying we're not gonna authorize the submit the intake form right now, or are we gonna authorize it? And does this tie us to? If we authorize the intake form, does this tie our hands at all? Or is this just paperwork at this point?
This is just paperwork, so they'll take it, they'll look at it, they'll see if they want to invite us for a formal application. So this is like a pre-application, get the ball rolling. And of course, if we submit it and they come back and offer the application process, I will bring it back to you. Because this is such an important decision, and since the dollar amounts are significant, your approval at every step of this is, in my view, necessary.
Yeah, because I don't know if anybody else caught it, but tying the Mac water and light also introduces fluoridated water debate. I don't have an issue with it, but there may be.
There are people who do in this community, I can guarantee you that. It's been all over Facebook and that. Okay,
More options is a good thing.
so do you want us to give you a go ahead tonight?
That's what I'm asking from the council.
Okay,
If you wanna postpone it until we can put it on for your special meeting, if you wanna wait till then, good with that too.
I kind of would like to hear some of the other information that might help us to determine some of this. If that makes sense. Yes, sir.
Do you wanna go ahead?
No.
Yeah, may I propose that we authorize Jeremy Cottle to submit the intake form to Bishop Farms technical feasibility and water quality analysis.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the table from Councilor Peterson, a second from Councilor Hildebrand. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, so approval of the new finance director job description, page 123.
Well, Madam Mayor,
Yes, please.
I will go ahead. I move to approve the finance director job description as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Mackin and a second from Councilor McGuire. All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, Ms. Lee Mackin, you have the floor.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go with a line from the 1967 movie. What we have here is a failure to communicate. It started back in like 2019, when the facilities tour showed up on the agenda. We got to that point and things just kind of stalled. There was no discussion about life it was, how it would be done. It just didn't happen. It was brought up again. It didn't happen. And then it did happen. An event was created for the group. A bus was rented for the group. The bus was not wheelchair accessible. And as it turns out, I'd forgotten this myself. The water treatment plant isn't wheelchair accessible. There was no discussion about what was involved, how I could be involved, how we might arrange this. It hurt. We've been talking about inclusion, we've been talking about me being excluded, and here this happened. I need to figure out, I mean, I'd love to know just how it is that it did happen, but I would like to make sure it doesn't happen again. What can we do as a council to make sure 20 years from now, if there's somebody in a wheelchair, will the council rules actually make sure that they're included? What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again, to me or anybody? I don't know that there's anything that can be decided tonight, but I really do need people to think about this. Thank you.
All right. That'll lead me to my council comments, which I'm going to open up tonight. First, we've got National Night Out coming up. And we as a council are tasked with putting this together. So I'm going to, with Jeremy's help, send out some assignments. Does anybody have anything particular that they're interested in?
I just want to help. You know, I'm gonna be there in costume. I'll be
Yes.
there to entertain, but if there is some sort of task I can do to actually assist, I would like to.
What are the duties?
We need a point person. Which I might
Cool.
make you.
All right.
So,
I should have asked.
I don't have it with me. When is it? August. Fifth, is it the August fifth?
Yeah, August 5th. Yeah, I have it in here, so.
So August fifth is when it is, but we'll need a point person. They wanna know if we want a police car, if we want the mounted posse to come, do we want? I mean, this year we have no budget, so I don't know what we're doing for kids. If anything, I mean, we need to figure that out. So there's a few different things that we'll need to figure out, and so
Happy note.
I am going to make Drew,
Staff,
huh?
not staff this year. Because,
Well, staff can help, but it's traditionally supposed to be the council that puts a lot of it together.
well, National Night Out came back in 21 and it was a staff idea. It was City Park. In this particular case, the council has gotten involved. But it's, that one, it started, Cindy started it.
Yeah, but we used 2 years ago before Cindy too.
Well, that was the Harvest Festival, the one that was early in September.
No,
Corn Fest.
we also did a national night out, but
The Drug Free Dayton Together Coalition did National Night Out for 2 or 3 years as part of the drug free community.
right, and we helped occasionally.
That was. A corn fest cooking. hot
No,
dogs.
that was different.
That
That was the Harvest Fest, but that was in
Okay.
October. Anyways, let's move on.
Oh.
So, yes, ma'am.
Are there, goals and objectives written down somewhere for this event? Or would I
No,
bring myself up to speed as to what we're
No.
aiming for?
I will send you all a forwarded email that I got today. So that's the only reason it's being brought up partially. So,
I mean, I guess if I'm gonna be volunteering to help, I'd like to
You
know that
collaborate,
there's like kind of something we're aiming at for the evening.
you collaborate on this.
well, usually we do a barbecue. I don't know if we're actually gonna have the funding for that. So that's the question that I'm really concerned about. What kind of funding?
There
We
wa-
have.
there is,
Yeah.
there is a budget for it, for the food specifically,
Okay,
burgers and hot dogs is usually.
I've reached out to Councilman Wildhauer about bringing his dad's
barbecue.
barbecue in, he said he would do that again.
Cool. Excellent.
I have a library we can bring over.
All right, so anyways, we'll have to iron these things out a little bit and we'll have some more time with it, but not a whole lot.
They keep forgetting it, it's ahead of, in front of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for
So-
this.
But here's more assignments that I'm considering. Everybody sort of has an interest on the council. And I know that Kitty is very much in her accessibility and inclusion, so I would like her to be the liaison for that. So from now on, whenever we do something, she's the first person we're gonna call about that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And then I know that you love reach out to youth. I would like for you to be the youth outreach person. Along with even Kitty possibly, because I would like to get our youth council started that we were supposed to start years ago.
Yeah.
So I want that to help.
Yeah.
And Jim is very, very good at details and all of that, so anything planning. Jim is our boy. And if Luke stays on board, I think he would be a great person to be sort of our outreach to outside of Dayton City limits. And Christie's already the events, so we don't really need to add it, but. I just feel like people specialize in certain things and areas, if they can bring that. As a group together, we'll be able to do better things, so, if y'all are okay with that, there's your assignments. All right, and we'll start with Counselor Dwyer or Council Thomas.
All right, I actually have something prepared today.
Oh, dear God.
Well, no, it's a little bit of a change, so. I want to encourage all of this in this room, but especially my fellow elected officials. To exercise due care and caution in their personal and professional lives. The calculated political assassination of an elected official and her husband in Minnesota. And the brutal wounding of 2 others is the direct result of the rhetoric coming from this White House and from talking heads and elected officials on the political right. For the first time in American history, active duty Marines have detained a US citizen, a blatant violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. The President of the United States is defying the Constitution and the laws of the United States every single day and should be resign or be removed from office by Congress or via the 25th Amendment. But we all know the majority in this Congress and the president's cabinet of sycophants do not have the intestinal fortitude to be on the right side of history. I truly feel that national party politics have no place in local government. This is different. I am concerned that we no longer live in a functional democracy. For the first time in our shared history, an American president has turned the US military against its own citizens. And on a personal note, as a former naval officer, I am pissed. These are the type of actions the founders abhorred and specifically wished to not allow in the United States of America. The only way to restore the rule of law in America is for this president to resign. Please be safe, report suspicious activity. And I think it is a sad day in this country where I feel that I have to have my sidearm loaded and easily accessible when I answer my door in our town at night.
I just had this conversation today.
Well said.
Thank you very much. I agree wholeheartedly.
One other thing, okay, on a less serious note, but did we ever find out where the signs come from for the speed limits along the high school?
When I talked with the engineer, he said that it depends on county regulations, it depends on whether the road is classified as a collector. So he said there's all kinds of stuff that go into that.
Yeah,
And that basically it would be something probably suited for like a traffic study or something at a later date.
when we had one.
But that was basically the short that I got from him, was that was kind of his justifications, but
How many ways and times did he say it to you?
it was a good conversation.
Well, I just think it's weird on all of the other approaches, it's 20 miles an hour between 7 AM and 5 PM on school days. But along the road that goes all the way down to high school, it's only a children's road.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
it makes absolutely no sense. So I was just curious as to where that came from.
Agree.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I like having an answer, they just never changed it. It
Yeah.
was when children are present, and they just never got around to changing it to the new stuff. It might be as simple as that.
Yeah, I was just curious, it just seemed weird.
I thought it would be up to maybe not. I thought, but for some reason, somebody told me once, but I could be completely off. That cities determine if they want it between 7 a.m. and 5, or when children are present, that you got to choose.
Well, it is 7 to 5 school days on Ferry, so that's county. And it is on Sweeney going up, which is city. But then on
9th, it says.
eighth,
children
that's
are-
8th, right?
Yeah.
It's-
On 8th, it's only when children are present, and that's city.
It's
That's
like
not-
that on-
That's not a county road.
Yeah, it says it on like,
So on 2 different city streets, it's different. Especially when it's a long straightaway, when people wanna speed up, you would think that that would be the street we want it to be.
they
7.
wouldn't even let us have a frickin' crosswalk down there for. How
No,
many
no,
years?
it's on Ferry Street, that's properly signed. It's
Right,
our
I
own
know.
city street, 9th, that's, or 8th, that's,
Yeah,
anyway, it was just
it's interesting.
one of
Okay,
those things, anyway,
anyways.
I'm done.
Okay, Councilor Peters,
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilor Pope.
So I'd like to call a special session either on July 30th, or sorry, June 30th, July 1st, or July 2nd. I think we as a council need a water specific special session that, and you and I talked about this in the past, having a flow chart of all of our options, the details on all of our options. We talked a lot about water, but there's still a lot of things that I think all of us as a collective still have answered or have a lot of questions, are confused about when we get into the fine details. Especially as we get closer to the fork in the road and a crux point, we really cannot be making big decisions, without diving into a lot of what this means. I know, there's some things already, in a closed session, that we'll probably talk about at a later point, but, purely from an informational standpoint, from a more bird's eye view, all of the issues, whether it's the transmission line, the springs, the watershed, the current wells, the Fisher Farms, Lafayette regional water solution, there's pros and cons to everything, and there's been a lot of different conversations for the last few months with different, whether it's here, whether it's presentations like at the community center, but we really, I think, need to have this in a easily presentable way to us, and then so that we can easily present it to the community. Because I feel like we've had 8 or 9 different water meetings, and it's more confusing now than it's ever been, because things keep getting added on, things keep changing. And I think there's a misunderstanding amongst us, probably me too, quite frankly, of what X or Y means. So I think as we get closer to this, and if it's before the July regular session, fine. If it has to wait till after that, I think we really need a water specific one where we can dive into each and every problem that we currently have, the solution to that problem, and then, all of our different options ahead of us. So the kind of flow chart thing that we talked about in the past, I think would be really, really helpful.
If I may, I think that's a great idea. I think, shoving it in before 4th of July is kind of too fast.
I just wasn't sure if we'd have a decision that we need to make about any of this at the regular session in July.
But to give maybe even give presenters a chance to kind of give us their elevator speech that has detail in it.
Absolutely.
For each of these many, many things, I think we need a little more lead time on that.
Yeah.
Those dates that he suggested, but I think it's a great idea, because I agree, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and even when we talked about at the budget, we were looking at all the different costs that the tie-in would take. I mean, we were somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, just without a lot of the other things that we've been talking about. So, there's a lot of moving pieces. So I think having a roundtable on that, to your point, maybe a little farther out than 2 weeks away, is very prudent for us to have.
All right.
Well, I'll tack onto that. We also need to do some work on setting the standard for charging the right amounts for water and sewer. I learned some rather harsh information here recently. I had been making an outrageous assumption if the city manager said we need to charge this for water, I assumed that they were asking for the right amount, and it turns out it was closer to break even. Only covering our basic costs right now. We need to set a standard that says, well, cost plus some for maintenance and repairs. So, and maybe even set a procedure where we address this once a year, every year, and a few dollars, but we need to make sure we're charging enough. I've been counting on the city and the experts, and we haven't been building in anything for the future. That's part of why we are here where we are. We haven't built in any cushions. So that's a work session we kind of need to do. And then there's the public safety levy. We need to get started. Can I ask, as soon as possible, we have the city put together the number that we need to go out for?
I thought we weren't going to go out for a levy because we were charging a safety fee.
Well, that's part of what we need, I don't think we're gonna be able
can't
to
do
cover.
both.
Well, no, that's why I'm saying we need to present a levy for the future so we can go back to doing it that way. Maybe, was this intended to be a charge for the ongoing for the rest of time, or? I thought this was just kind of a stopgap measure to get through the rest of this year.
That is correct.
Okay,
So the
That
vote,
wasn't my assumption. My assumption, we were adding this fee forever until the end of eternity.
let me provide some clarification. So we can implement the fee, the council can approve it by an ordinance, and then the fee is authorized. So then the next step is to approve a resolution setting the level of that fee. So for this upcoming fiscal year, you absolutely need to set that for the stopgap reasons that you mentioned. Now, in the future, if we refer a measure to the voters for the full amount, for what we need, you could go back and change that fee. You could change the resolution and drop it down or even eliminate it. But then if you get into a situation like we're in, where that levy stops paying for all of the service and you start to have a gap again, then you can look at adjusting the fee to cover that. But you will have already had the authorization for it on the books.
I can tell you one thing, it was in January of 22, we were presented with an option. Continue for 6 years at this rate, which was already underwater. We've been transferring from reserves for a few years already. $1.85 is what we have. The other option was $2.30. At that time, that was supposedly what we needed. But we didn't go forward with it because the two people, mayor and council president, were convinced it would not pass. This is where the voters have to pass it.
Different name.
We decided we're going to bring a number to the voters, they pass it. We didn't go with the 230 because it was declared the voters wouldn't go for it. We have to make sure they do.
Well, the last one that we actually went out for, people thought they were asking for more.
Yeah,
When we weren't, it was the same amount and we lost by a vote.
yeah, and we have to do better. As a council, we got to do better to sell this. And there was hardly anything ever even discussed, no plan. We just, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't on council yet, but I think Rochelle was out with her being treated for her cancer.
Oh, she
And
was?
the way it was, I didn't vote for it because the way it was in the voters pamphlet was very, very poorly worded. And she admitted that, but she wasn't here. She was getting treated for cancer. So for whoever did it, it's not here nor there, but the way it was written up by the city or the council, I don't know who did it, in the voters pamphlet was very poorly written, so it was not clear as to what the city was asking us to vote for, and I voted against it because it looked like they were doubling it, you know, for the same amount, and there wasn't any explanation as to what the city was doing and why.
I have this vague memory that we were trying to go for a second deputy.
No,
No, okay.
So,
Yeah.
how far out do we need to decide if we are going to pursue a levy in, you know, the 2026, you know, election year? Because, you know, I would think that that would be a good conversation for us to have at the very least.
It takes 2 years. We better get started if you want it on the 26th. That's what I hear from LOC conferences. It takes 15 years to actually do everything it takes to get it passed. We might need to step it. I don't know how much actual paperwork and filing, but I think part of that 2-year process is education and convincing the voters just how important it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we help them see what it would be like without it.
Could we have a conversation on that at the July regular session where we see kind of what our timeline requirements and recommendations are, and then just have an initial roundtable around this specific discussion?
Sure, we could flesh out some of these fee issues as well. I'd like to clarify. You could fund these services 100% by fee. You could do it that way. But you just have to keep in mind, there's some equity concerns with charging a fee that's flat across all customers. But we can definitely put that on for July to flesh these ideas out. So,
Thank you. Good call.
all right,
Who's gonna do it?
all right, we're gonna go on to information reports, tourism and economic development. Got anything tonight?
Just the only update I'll give you is that we held a meeting with the Dayton business and Dayton wine community, last Thursday and presented to them, the vision for Discover Dayton and so forth. It was attended by 22 people. Jeremy was there as well. Super positive reception. And more importantly, you got to see collaboration amongst, they stayed around afterwards. They talked with one another. They started talking about how they could help one another. So that was really cool. And I look forward to making the August presentation to all of you and updating you at that time.
All right, Dawn, public works.
Short and sweet. Leak detection was completed last week. It came in not quite $3,000 under what was budgeted. We are, any day we should be getting their report, which would have leaks that were found, anything on our side or on customer side. So they don't chase it all the way on either side, but they will try and pinpoint like between the meter and the main line if it's on our side. If it's in the right of way, they chase it a little bit that way, but they try not to go on public property or on private property, you know. But as soon as we have that, we will be getting a plan together on going out and investigating some of these and trying to get some repairs. Dave and myself met with the fireworks committee. Kind of got a crash course on what they're looking for from us again, so pretty similar to last year. So we've got our marching orders. And then just a heads up coming down the pipeline, smoke testing is tentatively scheduled for the first week in August. I should have a date locked down hopefully this week, the very latest next week. And then I'll be getting with staff and getting door hangers and everything prepped, and we're back to doing quadrants again, so we're not doing the entire system. So it's tentatively right now it's scheduled for one day. And when we have it locked down date and where we're going, that'll get pushed out so everybody knows the area. And then we'll be doing door hangers on the affected homes in that area. So we'll keep you in the loop on that.
Yes.
How is the reservoir doing?
Right now, both reservoirs are doing okay. we're doing all right at the moment with the well field, mainly because it's just Dayton pulling water at the moment. So, I mean, we're still at lower levels than normal in the well field, but we are still getting 2 to 3 day rest periods in between run cycles, so we are recovering, we are doing okay at the moment.
Okay, when do you see your production typically downturn? July, August?
It's usually the latter part of July,
July, okay.
just kind of depends on the heat and how fast it hits.
Yeah, just kidding.
Councilman.
I noticed some impractical water use over the weekend. I saw it on Facebook. It was a celebration for the seniors on their way out of town. Their bus was washed by fire hoses. Somebody posted online, said, hey, we should get super soakers and go greet the seniors on their way out of town. But what happened was as they passed by the fire hall, the fire hoses just washed the bus down. That didn't, we're not supposed to be wasting water like that. Oh, that just didn't. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I hope that doesn't happen again.
Yes.
Well, that just goes back to the previous discussions we've had about changing the water rates based on the size of. The size of the pipe going into it, and if the fire department wants to do that, and. You know, then they're gonna pay for the water that goes through that pipe. And we need to do that, we just haven't done it yet, because. We've got all the data, we've been told how to do it, we just haven't done it yet because of all the other issues we've been dealing with, but. We need to get on that and start charging. The school district and the fire department and. Probably Dayton villages as well. More for their larger pipes that they take water with, right now we don't. And we need to start doing that, and I'm not. We have all the data, we've had multiple presentations on it since I've been on council, we just haven't pulled the trigger on it, and we need to.
We agreed,
This is more about wasting the water.
we can't, I mean, I think it's wasteful. I'm sure a lot of other people think it's wasteful, but we can't go over to them and say. It's wasteful.
That's why I didn't, but.
Yeah.
Anything.
And not unless we're on water restrictions, and then I'll be down there screaming at them. Okay. Jeremy, do you have a city manager's report for us tonight?
A couple items, Madam Mayor, first. We have a vacancy in the finance director position for the past 2 weeks. Today, the team and I interviewed 4 candidates for interim finance director. We have, I believe, 3 or 4 more interviews scheduled for this week. I'm working with 3 placement firms to identify a potential candidate to fill in an interim. The plan is to get the finance department stabilized and then to initiate the process to recruit a permanent replacement for that position. And if one of the interim people want to go through that process, and they are more than welcome to do so. If they're hired to the placement firm, then there would be a fee involved. And I will advertise when we get to that point, a salary based on what was in your job description here. And if we get somebody very highly qualified, I believe would be worth every penny to pay them at the top or at the top of that pay range. And that would mean we would need to pay the consultant fees that we budgeted. So just want you to be aware of how things are proceeding with that. Lastly, we conducted an internal staff survey of the potential of moving to 4 10-hour day work week. So the idea would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 hours. Friday would be off. I'd like you just to think about that. I'm not asking for any decisions tonight. I know there needs to be some consideration to the potential impacts on Friday being closed. The benefit would be open longer in the evening for people, potential window of time for people to come during the evening. So I'd just like you to think about that. I'm gonna work with the team to flesh out those details a bit more and bring that to you at a future meeting. But the staff response to that was unanimous. The entire city team would be pleased to go to that schedule. Great work.
Does that mean that there would still be, the city hall would still be closed for time on Wednesdays as well as being closed all day on Friday? Or would that? Would we be adding to times that city hall is closed?
City Hall, so. The only time City Hall is closed is when we're doing trainings, which
Okay.
is usually the Monday after the first city council meeting, so it's a Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday or something.
Right.
For some reason I thought it was on.
Yeah, and then it's just, I thought maybe you were confusing it with the library times, but they would have to adjust to the new schedule.
One follow-up to the financial. As we've been talking about, it looks like council needs to do a little bit of oversight. Keep a better eye on the budget. Can we set up a work session or something, or add that to agenda so we can sit down and talk about what it is we're gonna be doing? Oversight without telling the staff what to do or how to do it. It seems like we need to get a little bit more involved. So what do we go from here?
Well, we read our packets and we always ask as many questions as possible, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah, no, I think we're talking more oversight than that.
We can't oversight staff.
Okay, then.
We can oversight Jeremy, but council has no say over the rest of the staff.
Okay, then Jeremy, where do we go from here?
I believe it's a great idea to have city council involved in developing internal controls, especially from an oversight perspective. I would absolutely love to work those details out more with the council to start developing some internal control policies. And to have you involved, if nothing else, just review that, talk about ways as you're, for instance, signing checks on what to look for, what kind of financial reports you want to have in your packets. These are all conversations we need to be having. So where do we go from here? We need to get the finance department stabilized. We need to catch up on some accounting tasks. We need to catch up on some reporting tasks. We need to get the audit started. Once we have a firm foundation under us, then we can pivot to these more foundational questions that you're raising. And these are very good questions.
One other question, when we were talking about water, we were having that water report as part of our packet. And I haven't seen it for the last several meetings, at least once per month. And it's just been gone now. So do we know when we're gonna get that back?
It can come back on the, so. Just the way the last water report was done to the meetings, like it has to be on the first meeting of the month.
Okay,
And that's when it can be presented, but when you got the last one, it kind of covered that last month, so we haven't. Got to
One
another
got
report to report.
okay.
Yeah.
So it should be coming back, we should be seeing that in the first
Meeting.
meeting of every month, then it'll show the year up to the end of the last previous month. Okay,
Sure, we're gonna the last packet.
I think I just missed, I think I was working on the day of the meeting. Okay. I don't think it was completed.
We're good, okay. Well, we are going to adjourn for a moment, well, the restroom, so sorry.
Well, we're gonna adjourn the council meeting and then we'll
Yes.
go into regular session, so.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn at 2019.
You have I apologize, Mayor, do you have a script that you want to read? through?
Yeah, oh, I guess I gotta read it.
Adjourn that. Sorry,
So sorry.
Well, then go, Pete, boy.
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, or you could read it.
Okey dokey. Alright, executive session script for June 16th. The Dayton City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 F. Which allows the city council to meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. At the end of the executive session, we will not return to open session since no decision will be made following the executive session. The city council will adjourn directly from the executive session.